Captain Daywan stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise and stared at the stars ahead. His hands rested on the command console, steady despite the nervous energy running through his body. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. They were about to meet another intelligent species. The ship hummed quietly around him. 300 people lived and worked inside its metal walls. Scientists, diplomats, engineers, and their families. Even children ran through the corridors, excited about the adventure. Earth had sent its best and brightest on this mission. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans came in peace. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the Velcaran Empire," said Haywan from her station. She was the chief science officer and the smartest person Daywan had ever met. For 6 months, she had worked day and night to understand the alien language. Now she could translate their words almost perfectly. "Put it through," Daywan said. A strange voice filled the bridge. It sounded like wind moving through metal pipes. Haywan's computer turned the sounds into words humans could understand. "Welcome, travelers from Earth. We have prepared a great ceremony for your arrival. Come to our homeworld. Let us celebrate this historic meeting between our peoples." Daywan smiled. "Send our response. Tell them we're honored and will arrive in 3 days." Behind him, Lieutenant Jiwan worked at the communication station. She was young but talented. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, sending humanity's message across the stars. "Message sent, Captain. They're responding already. They seem very eager to meet us." "As they should be," said Ambassador Nari, walking onto the bridge. She was an older woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. This is a new chapter for everyone. Humans and Velcarans, learning from each other, building a better future together. Daywan nodded, but something felt wrong. He couldn't explain it. Maybe it was just nerves. Down in the engineering section, Kyung-soo checked the ship's systems for the 100th time. Everything needed to be perfect. He pulled up the sensor data from their last scan of Velcaran space. His eyes narrowed at the screen. "Hey, Soo-jin, come look at this," he called to the medical officer who was passing by. Soo-jin walked over and looked at his screen. "What am I looking at?" "These are the Velcaran ships we detected near their homeworld. See these energy signatures?" He pointed at several bright spots on the display. "Those are weapons. Really powerful weapons. Way more than you'd need for defense." Soo-jin frowned. "Maybe they have dangerous neighbors. Lots of species might need strong defenses." "Maybe," Kyung-soo said, but he didn't sound convinced. "I think I should tell the captain." "Don't worry so much," Soo-jin said with a laugh. "They invited us for a ceremony, not a fight. Save your concerns for actual problems." Kyung-soo wanted to argue, but she was already walking away. He looked at the weapon signatures again and tried to push away the uncomfortable feeling in his stomach. Back on Earth, Admiral Taemin sat in his office at the United Defense Fleet headquarters. He watched the live feed from the Horizon's Promise on his screen. The ship looked so small against the vast darkness of space. "Sir, you asked to see me," said General Bora, entering his office. Taemin gestured to a chair. "I don't like this, Bora. We sent civilians to make first contact. Families, children. What if these Velcarans aren't friendly?" "The Council made that decision," Bora reminded him. "They said sending families would show we have peaceful intentions, that we trust the Velcarans." "Trust," Taemin repeated the word like it tasted bad. "We know nothing about these aliens except what they've told us. And they've been watching us for who knows how long." "The reports say the Velcarans control 47 star systems," Bora said. "They're powerful and advanced. If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already." Taemin stood and walked to his window. Below, he could see hundreds of military ships docked at the orbital station. Earth's defense fleet. Strong, but untested against alien weapons. Maybe, or maybe they're waiting for the right moment. "You think too much like a soldier," Bora said, but not unkindly. "Sometimes peace is possible." "Sometimes," Taemin agreed. "But not always. I just hope Daywan and his people stay alert." On the Horizon's Promise, Daywan gathered his senior staff in the conference room. Ambassador Nari, Haewon, Jiwon, and several others sat around the table. On the wall screen, images of the Velkaran home world rotated slowly. It was a beautiful planet, covered in purple oceans and silver cities that gleamed like jewels. "We arrive tomorrow," Daewon said. "Haewon, what have you learned about Velkaran culture?" Haewon pulled up her notes. "They're an old species. They've been traveling through space for over 10,000 years. They seem to value strength and tradition. Their society is very organized, very structured. They have strict rules about everything." "Do we know how they treat other species?" asked Nari. "Not much information on that," Haewon admitted. "They've mentioned other races in their transmissions, but always in past tense. They say those species moved on or are no longer concerns. I'm not sure what that means." "Probably just means those species developed and went their own way," Nari said confidently. "The galaxy is a big place. Peoples drift apart." Jiwon raised her hand slightly. "Captain, should we keep our weapons armed?" "Just as a precaution?" "Our weapons are already armed," Daewon said, "but they're not active. We're here for peace, but we're not stupid. If anything feels wrong, we'll be ready to defend ourselves." "Nothing will go wrong," Nari said firmly. "You'll see. Tomorrow will be the greatest day in human history. We'll make friends. We'll learn. We'll show the galaxy that humanity deserves a place among the stars." Daewon wanted to believe her. He really did. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He had learned to trust his instincts during his years in space. Those instincts had kept him alive through solar storms, equipment failures, and a dozen other disasters. Now those same instincts were screaming at him to turn the ship around and run. But he couldn't do that. 300 people were depending on him. Earth was depending on him. This mission was too important. He pushed his fears down deep and smiled at his crew. "Get some rest, everyone. Tomorrow we make history." They filed out of the conference room, talking excitedly about the ceremony. Only Daewon stayed behind, staring at the image of the Velkaran home world on the screen. Somewhere down there, aliens were waiting for humanity to arrive. Were they friends or enemies? Tomorrow, he would find out. The ship moved through the darkness, carrying humanity's hopes and dreams toward an unknown future. In his quarters, Kyung-soo tried to sleep, but kept thinking about those weapon signatures. In the medical bay, Sujin organized her supplies and hummed a happy tune. On the bridge, Jiwon maintained the night watch, monitoring the empty space around them. None of them knew what was coming. None of them could imagine the horror waiting just one day away. They were peaceful explorers, scientists, and dreamers. They believed in the goodness of the universe. They believed that intelligence and kindness went together. They were wrong. The Horizon's promise dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Velkar Prime. The planet hung before them like a giant pearl in the darkness. Its purple oceans reflected the light of twin suns, and its cities glowed with strange silver light. "It's beautiful," whispered Nari, standing beside Captain Daewon on the bridge. "It is," Daewon agreed, but his hand rested on the weapon's control. Just in case. Velkaran ships surrounded them within minutes. Dozens of vessels, each 3 times larger than the Horizon's promise. Their hulls were dark and smooth, covered in symbols that Haewon's computer couldn't translate. "Captain, they're asking us to follow them to the ceremonial platform," Jiwon said from communications. "It's in orbit above their main city." "Follow their lead," Daewon ordered, "but keep our shields at maximum. Tell engineering to keep the engines hot." The human ship moved forward, surrounded by alien vessels. Kyung-soo watched his instruments down in engineering. The power readings from the Velkaran ships made him nervous. Those weren't the signatures of peaceful escorts. Those were warships, ready for battle. "Captain, I really think we should," he started to say over the comm system. "Not now, Kyung-soo," Daewon cut him off. "We're committed. Just keep everything ready." The ceremonial platform was a massive ring of metal floating in space. It could hold hundreds of ships. The Horizon's promise was directed to dock at the center, like a prize on display. Human escort ships took positions nearby, small and fragile compared to the Velkaran fleet. "All personnel, prepare for the ceremony," Daewon announced throughout the ship. "Diplomatic teams to the main airlock. Everyone else, stand by in your sections." Sujin checked her medical supplies one last time. She had a strange feeling, like something bad was about to happen. On impulse, she grabbed her personal datapad and slipped it into her pocket. If anything went wrong, she wanted to record it. The airlocks opened. Velcarin air rushed in, carrying strange scents. It was breathable for humans, but smelled like metal and electricity. Ambassador Nari led the diplomatic team out onto the platform. Daewon and his officers followed, along with 50 other humans, scientists, cultural experts, and representatives from Earth. The Velcarins waited for them. They were tall, taller than any human, with bodies that seemed to be made of overlapping metal plates. Their faces had no features humans could understand. No eyes, no mouths, just smooth surfaces that somehow watched and spoke. The largest Velcarin stepped forward. Through speakers, his voice boomed across the platform. Humans of Earth, we welcome you to this historic moment. Haewon's translator worked quickly. She whispered the words to Nari. We are honored to be here, Nari said, bowing slightly. We bring greetings from Earth and hope for friendship between our peoples. Friendship, the Velcarin repeated. His name, they learned, was Commander Thelvar. An interesting concept. Let us show you something, humans. Let us share the truth of the galaxy. Massive screens appeared around the platform. Images flickered to life. Daewon watched, confused at first. The screens showed Earth. Not just recent images, but old ones. Pictures from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, before humanity had even left their solar system. You have been watching us? Daewon asked, his hand moving toward his sidearm. Yes, Thelvar said. We watch all young species. We study them. We learn if they are worthy to exist among the stars. Nari's face went pale. Worthy? What do you mean? The galaxy is old, human. Older than you can imagine. There are rules. Laws written in blood and fire over millions of years. The strong survive. The weak are removed before they become problems. Daewon grabbed his comm unit. All ships, emergency jump. Get out of here now. But nothing happened. Jiwon's voice crackled over the channel, panicked and broken. Captain, our systems are locked. They're jamming everything. Engines, weapons, communications. On the platform, Velcarin soldiers appeared from nowhere. Hundreds of them, surrounding the human delegation, their weapons charged with terrible light. You came to us in peace, Thelvar said. His voice sounded almost amused. How foolish. How weak. You brought your families, your children. You brought them to meet strangers. This is why your species will never see another generation among the stars. No, Nari screamed. We came in peace. We meant no harm. That is precisely the problem, Thelvar said. You are too soft, too kind. If we let you grow, you would spread that weakness throughout the galaxy. Better to end you now before you corrupt others with your pathetic ideals. Daewon pulled his weapon, but Velcarin soldiers were faster. Energy beams cut through the air. Humans fell, screaming. Nari collapsed with a hole burned through her chest, her kind eyes frozen in shock and disbelief. All hands abandon ship, Daewon roared into his comm unit, even though he knew it was useless. Anyone who can hear me, get to the escape pods. On the Horizon's promise, Kyung-soo heard the screams through the failing comm system. He ran through the corridors, pulling people toward the escape pods. Sujin was right behind him, her datapad recording everything she could see through the windows. The Velcarin ships were firing. Human vessels exploded one by one. Beautiful ships turned into clouds of debris and frozen bodies. Move! Move! Kyung-soo shouted, shoving people into the pods. He counted heads. 12 people. Only 12 out of 300. The others were dead or trapped or still on the platform being slaughtered. We can't leave the captain, someone cried. He's already gone, Sujin said, tears streaming down her face. Her datapad showed the platform. Bodies everywhere. Human bodies. And walking among them, Velcarin soldiers, making sure no one survived. Kyung-soo sealed the pod and hit the launch button. Nothing happened. The pod's systems were locked like everything else. He tore open the control panel and started rewiring it manually. His hands shook so badly he could barely hold the tools. Outside, Daewon fought with his last breath. He had no chance, but he fought anyway. He shot 3 Velcaran soldiers before they cut him down. His last thought was of Earth, and how he had failed to warn them. Jiwon managed to send one final transmission before the bridge exploded around her. Just 3 words. Just enough for Earth to know what happened. They betrayed us. In the escape pod, Kyungsu's desperate rewiring worked. The pod shot away from the dying ship, tumbling through the debris field. Velcaron sensors tracked it, but decided one small pod wasn't worth the ammunition. Let it drift. Let those few survivors die slowly in the cold of space. It was more cruel that way. Sujin clutched her datapad to her chest. She had recorded it all, every horrible second. The massacre, the betrayal, the end of humanity's dreams. 12 survivors huddled together in the tiny pod, crying and shaking. Most were engineers and junior officers. Nobody important. Nobody the Velcarans cared about. On the platform, Commander Thelvar surveyed the bodies of the human delegation. They had died so easily, so quickly. Not even a challenge. He activated a broadcast to all nearby star systems. Let this be a lesson, his voice rang out across the stars. We are the Velcaran Empire. We have ruled this region for 10,000 years. Any species that tries to rise above their station will share the fate of these humans. We will find their homeworld. We will end their pathetic existence. This is the law of the galaxy. The strong endure. The weak perish. The broadcast carried images of the slaughter. Dead humans floating in space, ships torn apart, families murdered for the crime of dreaming about a better future. The Velcarans wanted everyone to see. They wanted the galaxy to understand what happened to those who believed in peace. In the escape pod, 12 survivors drifted through the darkness. They had no engine power, no communications, no hope. They could only wait and pray that somehow, someone would find them. And far away on Earth, Admiral Taemin sat in his office and watched his worst nightmare come true. Jiwon's final transmission had arrived. 3 words that changed everything. Behind him, General Bora stood silent, her face carved from stone. They watched the Velcaran broadcast together. They saw their friends die. They saw Daewon fall. They saw Ambassador Nari's broken body. They saw everything the Velcarans wanted them to see. Get me the president, Taemin said quietly. His voice was cold and empty. Get me the council. Get me everyone, right now. Sir, Bora said. What are we going to do? Taemin kept watching the screen, kept watching humans die, kept counting the bodies. 288. 288 people slaughtered for believing in peace. We're going to show them, he said softly, what happens when you hurt humans. We're going to show them what we're really capable of. We tried their way. We tried peace. He turned to face Bora. His eyes held something terrible, something dark and old and angry. Now we try it our way. The United Earth Council chamber had never been so quiet. 500 representatives from every nation sat in stunned silence, watching the screens. The Velcaran broadcast played over and over. Dead humans. Destroyed ships. Commander Thelvar's mocking voice explaining why humanity deserved extinction. President Sang-woo stood at the podium. He had been a peaceful man once, a diplomat who believed in words and compromise. Now he looked 1,000 years old. His hands gripped the podium so hard his knuckles turned white. They killed our children, he said quietly. The microphone barely caught his words. They invited us to a ceremony and murdered our children. Someone in the audience sobbed. It was Ambassador Nari's husband. He had watched his wife die on that screen, watched her fall with hope still in her eyes. 288 souls, Sang-woo continued. His voice grew stronger, harder. 288 people who believed in a better future, who believed that intelligence meant kindness, who believed that we could all live together in peace. He looked up at the screens showing the massacre. They taught us a lesson today. They showed us how the galaxy really works. They think we'll be afraid. They think we'll hide. They think one attack will break us. Admiral Taman stood from his seat in the military section. General Bo-Ra stood beside him. Then another officer stood. And another. Within seconds, every military representative in the chamber was standing. Then the civilians joined them. The entire council rose to its feet. "They don't know us," Sang-Woo said, and now his voice rang through the chamber like thunder. "They watched us for decades. They studied us. But they missed the most important thing about humanity. We don't stay down. We don't give up. And we never, ever forgive those who hurt our innocent." The chamber erupted in shouts of agreement. Sang-Woo raised his hand for silence. "The Velkarans think they're strong because they've survived for 10,000 years. They think age equals power. But they've never faced a species like us. They've never fought someone who was pushed too far. Someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to avenge." He turned to Admiral Taman. "Admiral, I'm told you have something to show us?" Taman walked to the podium. Behind him, the screens changed. They stopped showing the massacre and started showing something else. Ships, weapons, technologies that most of the Council had never seen before. "For 50 years, Taman began, Earth's defense forces have been developing weapon systems in secret. We hid them from our own people because we wanted to appear peaceful. We wanted other species to see us as friendly explorers, not as threats." He clicked through images. Massive cannons, bombs that could crack planets, artificial intelligences designed for war, ships built for killing, not exploring. "We studied our own history. Every war we ever fought, every weapon we ever made. We learned from our worst moments, our darkest hours. And we built things that scared even us. We locked them away and hoped we'd never need them." The council stared at the screens in shock. These weapons were terrible. Designed by humans, for humans, using all the cruel knowledge of Earth's bloody past. "We're not peaceful because we're weak," Taman said. "We're peaceful because we know what we're capable of. We chose kindness because we understood the alternative, but the Velkarans took that choice away from us." General Bo-Ra stepped forward. "Project Reckoning is ready to deploy. Give the word, and we can have battle fleets ready in 3 months. Full invasion forces in 6 months. Every soldier, every pilot, every weapon we've kept hidden. All of it, aimed at the Velkaran Empire." Dr. Hyun-woo, Earth's leading physicist, stood up. "Mr. President, the Science Division has been working on something. Based on what we learned from the Velkaran broadcasts, we believe we can weaponize our FTL technology. Ships that can jump in, fire, and jump out before the enemy even knows we're there. Ghost strikes. Impossible to defend against." Around the chamber, other scientists and engineers raised their hands. Everyone wanted to contribute. Everyone wanted revenge. Sang-Woo listened to them all. Then he raised his hand for silence again. "There's something else we need to discuss. 12 survivors from the Horizon's Promise. Their escape pod was picked up by a commercial vessel 6 days ago. They're on their way back to Earth now. One of them is Kyung-soo, the engineer. He has information about Velkaran ship weaknesses. Another is Soo-jin, the medical officer. She recorded the massacre. She has evidence of everything the Velkarans did." The chamber went quiet again. Evidence. Proof. Not that anyone doubted what happened, but having recordings made it real in a different way. "We have a choice," Sang-Woo said. "We can hide. We can run. We can hope the Velkarans forget about us. Or we can do what humans have always done when someone tries to destroy us. We can fight back. We can show them that attacking Earth was the biggest mistake any species has ever made." The vote was immediate and unanimous. Not a single person voted against military action. The peaceful United Earth Council, created to prevent war, voted for total war with alien species they barely understood. That night, Sang-Woo made a broadcast. Not just to Earth, but to the entire galaxy. Using every frequency humans knew, pushing the signal as far as their technology could reach. He wanted everyone to hear. Every species. Every civilization. Everyone needed to understand what was coming. My name is Sang Woo, President of the United Earth. 3 weeks ago, the Velkaran Empire invited us to a ceremony. They promised friendship. They promised peace. Instead, they murdered 288 of our people, men, women, and children. They killed them for the crime of being peaceful, for the crime of believing in a better universe. His face was calm on the screen, but his eyes burned with cold fire. The Velkarans said this was a lesson. They wanted to teach us our place. They wanted to show us that the galaxy belongs to the strong and cruel. That kindness is weakness. That peace is foolishness. He paused, letting his words sink in. We learned their lesson. We learned it well, but not the lesson they intended. We learned that the galaxy is more savage than we imagined, that there are species out there who see compassion as a flaw, who kill innocents to make a point. Another pause. Longer this time. So here is our response. Here is our lesson to the Velkarans and anyone else who thinks like them. We came to you in peace. You chose violence. That was your mistake, your final mistake. His voice dropped lower, harder, colder. We gave you mercy once. We offered friendship. We showed you the best of humanity. Now you'll see the worst. Now you'll learn what humans are really capable of when you murder our innocent, when you slaughter our children, when you take away our hope for a peaceful future. He leaned closer to the camera. From this moment forward, Earth has one mission: the total destruction of the Velkaran Empire. Every ship, every colony, every military installation. We will dismantle everything you built over 10,000 years. We will reduce your empire to rubble and dust. We will make sure every species in the galaxy knows what happens when you cross humanity. The broadcast cut to images of Earth's military mobilizing. Thousands of ships launching into space. Millions of soldiers training for war. Factories running day and night, building weapons humanity had kept hidden for decades. You wanted to teach us a lesson about strength, Sang-Woo said. Let us teach you one. Real strength isn't killing the defenseless. Real strength isn't attacking those who come in peace. Real strength is what happens when you push a peaceful species too far, when you force them to become what they never wanted to be. His final words echoed across the stars. We sent you one message, Velkarans. We sent it with our blood, with our dead, with the bodies of our children floating in your ceremonial platform. That message was simple. No more mercy. We tried it your way. We came in peace. Now we come in war. And we won't stop until every Velkaran knows what it feels like to watch their world burn. The broadcast ended. The signal spread across space, moving at the speed of light. Within days, it reached dozens of star systems. Within weeks, hundreds. Everywhere it went, species watched in fascination and fear. The humans weren't running. They weren't hiding. They were preparing for war against an empire that had stood for 10,000 years. Some species laughed. Some thought humans were fools rushing to their own extinction. But others remembered their own encounters with the Velkarans, their own losses, their own dead. And they watched Earth's preparations with hope they didn't dare speak aloud. On Earth, Kyung-soo sat in a debriefing room with Admiral Taemin. He pulled up every scan he had taken of the Velkaran ships, every sensor reading, every tiny detail he had noticed before the massacre. Here, he said, pointing at the screen. Their shield generators are powerful, but they have a weakness. They cycle every 43 seconds. For 0.7 seconds, the shields drop completely. They probably think it's too fast for anyone to exploit. Taemin smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. They haven't seen how fast our computers can target. 0.7 seconds is an eternity for our weapons. In another room, Sujin showed her recordings to a team of intelligence officers. They watched the massacre frame by frame, studying how the Velkarans moved, how they fought, looking for any weakness, any flaw, anything that could be used against them. They're arrogant, one officer noted. They didn't even take cover. They knew we couldn't hurt them, so they didn't bother with basic tactics. Good, said General Bo-Ra, watching from the doorway. Arrogance is a weakness we can exploit. They think they're invincible. Let's prove them wrong. Across Earth, humanity prepared for war. Not the war they wanted, not the war they ever dreamed of fighting, but the war that was necessary. The war that would decide whether humans had a future among the stars or would die as a cautionary tale. The Velkarans had tried to teach humanity about strength, about the harsh reality of the galaxy, about how the weak must bow to the strong or be destroyed. Now humanity would teach them something in return. They would teach them about vengeance, about what happens when you attack a species that spent millennia learning every possible way to hurt each other, about the terrible creativity of human warfare. The lesson was about to begin. 6 months after the massacre, the war began. It didn't start with declarations or warnings. It started with 12 Velkaran colonies waking up to find human ships already in orbit, already attacking, already winning. Operation Hammerfall caught the Velkarans completely off guard. They had expected humans to gather their forces, to charge straight at the Velkaran homeworld in a desperate attack. They expected fear and rage and stupid mistakes. They didn't expect intelligence. They didn't expect strategy. They didn't expect humans to fight like humans. Colonel Jin Ho led the assault on Velkar Station 7, a mining colony on the edge of Velkaran space. His ships appeared from nowhere, dropped their weapons, and vanished before the Velkaran defenders could even respond. The colony's shields collapsed. Its communication arrays exploded. Its defense platforms turned into clouds of debris. By the time Velkaran reinforcements arrived 3 hours later, the colony was already destroyed. The humans were gone. Only silence and wreckage remained. How did they do this? Commander Thelvar demanded, watching reports from 12 destroyed colonies. How did they know where to strike? His intelligence officer had no answer. The humans had found every weak point in the Velkaran defense network. They attacked mining operations, supply depots, communication hubs, not military targets, support systems, the things that kept an empire running. They're fighting like vermin, Thelvar said with disgust, striking from shadows, running away. Where is their honor? Where is their courage? He didn't understand. The Velkarans had never fought an enemy like this. In 10,000 years, they had always faced opponents who fought the same way they did. Direct combat. Fleet against fleet. Honor and strength deciding victory. Humans didn't care about honor. Humans cared about winning. Pilot Ye-Jin sat in her cockpit 3 light-years away, listening to the Velkaran communications chatter. She smiled. They were angry, confused. They kept asking how humans could be so cowardly. They still don't get it, she said to her squadron. Ready for Ghost Run 7? Her ships jumped into the Velkaran supply line. They destroyed 6 transport vessels in 40 seconds. Then they jumped away. The Velkaran escort fleet didn't even see them arrive. Ghost runs became humanity's signature tactic. Ships equipped with Dr. Yunwoo's modified FTL drives could jump in, attack, and jump out in under a minute. The Velkarans couldn't track them, couldn't predict them, couldn't stop them. This isn't war, Thelvar complained to the High Council. This is terrorism. This is beneath us. It's effective, said Daewon quietly. Everyone in the council chamber turned to stare at him. This Daewon was different from the captain who had died. This was his younger brother, a man who had spent 6 months learning everything about the Velkarans. He stood before the High Council wearing a Velkaran military uniform stolen from a captured supply ship. You're the human infiltrator, one counselor said, the one who's been feeding your people information. Yes, Daewon said simply. I'm here to offer you a choice. Surrender now, or we'll destroy everything you've built. Thelvar laughed. You think you're winning? You've hit some minor colonies, destroyed some supply ships. We control 47 star systems. You control 1. This is a minor inconvenience, nothing more. You controlled 47 systems, Daewon corrected. 3 weeks ago, we liberated Velkar Station 12. The people there welcomed us. They were tired of your rule, tired of being treated as lesser beings. They told us about 15 other colonies that want freedom. He pulled up a datapad. Would you like to see the recordings? Your own people, celebrating as we destroyed your military installations. Your own people asking us to save them from you. The council chamber erupted in angry shouts. Daewon stood calmly in the center of the chaos, waiting. You're lying, Thelvar said, but he sounded uncertain. Verify it yourself, Daewon said. Check your communication logs. Oh wait, you can't. We destroyed most of your long-range communication arrays last week. You can't even talk to half your empire anymore. You don't know which colonies are still loyal and which have turned against you. He moved toward the door. Guards raised their weapons, but he ignored them. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to dismantle your empire piece by piece, not because we want your territory. We'll give it to the people you've been oppressing. Not because we want your resources, we have enough. We're doing this because you murdered our innocent. Because you thought you could teach us a lesson about strength. He reached the door and turned back. How's the lesson going, Commander? Before anyone could stop him, he activated a device on his wrist. His body shimmered and vanished. A hologram. He had never been there at all. The real Daewon was on a human ship 3 systems away, already planning his next infiltration. Back on Earth, Admiral Taemin coordinated the war from a command center deep underground. Screens surrounded him, showing every battle, every strike, every victory. General Bora stood beside him, directing troop movements. Velkaran fleet approaching Sector 7, an officer reported. Let them come, Taemin said calmly. Is the trap ready? Yes, sir. All mines in position. All ships on standby. The Velkaran fleet jumped into Sector 7 expecting an easy fight. They found what looked like a small human supply convoy. Defenseless, helpless, perfect targets. They never saw the mines. Thousands of them, floating silent in the darkness. As the Velkaran ships moved to attack the convoy, the mines activated. Explosions tore through the fleet. Shields collapsed. Ships vented atmosphere. Then the real human fleet appeared. They had been waiting, cloaked, just outside sensor range. They jumped in while the Velkarans were still reeling from the mine strike. It was a massacre. The same kind of massacre the Velkarans had inflicted on the Horizon's Promise. Except this time, humans were dealing the death. Kyung-soo watched from the engineering deck of the flagship. He felt no joy in the destruction. No happiness in the revenge. He just felt tired. He wanted this war to end. He wanted to go home. But home didn't feel safe anymore. Not after what he had seen. Direct hit on the Velkaran command ship, someone announced. It's breaking apart. Around the command center, people cheered. Taemin didn't. He just watched the screens with cold eyes and marked another target for destruction. The war continued for 18 months. Humans hit the Velkarans everywhere and nowhere. Ghost runs destroyed supply lines. Infiltrators like Daewon spread chaos from within. Human intelligence officers studied every aspect of Velkaran culture and used it against them. They learned that Velkarans valued strength above all else. So humans made them look weak. They broadcasted every defeat across the galaxy. They made sure everyone could see the mighty empire crumbling. They learned that Velkarans relied on fear to control their subject species. So humans showed those species they didn't need to be afraid anymore. Colony after colony rose up in rebellion, with human support. They learned that Velkarans thought in terms of direct combat, so humans fought indirectly. They poisoned water supplies, they hacked communication networks, they released embarrassing secrets about Velkaran leaders. They did everything that made the Velkarans rage about honor and fairness. This isn't how wars are supposed to be fought, Thelvar said, watching another colony declare independence. His second-in-command looked at him with tired eyes. Sir, we're losing. The humans have taken or liberated 43 of our 47 systems. We only control the home world and 3 nearby colonies. Our fleet is at 30% strength. Our supply lines are destroyed. Our allies have abandoned us. We need to surrender. Never, Thelvar said. We've ruled this region for 10,000 years. We will not bow to these primitive apes. But even as he spoke, human ships were entering the Velkar Prime system. Not sneaking in, not hiding. They came openly, broadcasting their arrival for everyone to see. 100 human warships, each one bearing the names of those who died on the Horizon's Promise. The fleet moved into orbit around Velkar Prime and waited. Admiral Taemin's face appeared on every screen on the planet. Commander Thelvar, we're here. We've destroyed your empire. We've freed the species you oppressed. We've proven that your 10,000 years of dominance mean nothing when you face an enemy that refuses to follow your rules. He paused, looking directly at the camera. You wanted to teach us about strength, about how the weak must submit to the strong. Well, here's your lesson. We were weak when we came to you in peace. We were weak because we believed in something better. But you taught us to be strong. You taught us that the galaxy respects only violence, only force, only the willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. Another pause. Thank you for the lesson. Now here's ours. Surrender. Face trial for the murder of 288 innocent people. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who think kindness is weakness, or refuse, and will destroy your homeworld. We'll turn it into the same kind of debris field you made from the Horizon's promise. The choice is yours. You have 1 hour. The broadcast ended. On Velkar Prime, millions of Velkarans watched the sky and knew their empire had fallen. Some wanted to fight, some wanted to surrender. All of them understood that their world had changed forever. Thelvar sat in his command center, surrounded by the ruins of everything he had built. His empire was gone. His power was broken. His people were defeated. He could surrender and face justice, or he could fight and doom his entire species to extinction. For the first time in his long life, Thelvar realized he had made a terrible mistake, not in attacking the humans. That was predictable, expected. His mistake was thinking they would respond like other species, thinking they would fight by the rules. Humans didn't follow the rules. Humans changed them. Humans adapted. Humans turned their weaknesses into strengths and their pain into weapons. Open a channel to the human fleet, he said quietly. His officers stared at him in shock. Sir? Open the channel, Thelvar repeated. It's over. We lost. Not because they were stronger, but because they were smarter. Because they understood something we never did. In war, there are no rules. There is only winning and losing, and we lost. The channel opened. Thelvar faced Admiral Taman across the void of space. We surrender, he said simply. 2 years had passed since the Horizon's promise was destroyed. 2 years since humanity learned the hard truth about the galaxy. 2 years since Earth went to war. General Bora stood on Velkar Prime, watching as Velkaran soldiers surrendered their weapons. Thousands of them, forming orderly lines, placing their arms in collection bins. They moved slowly, defeated, broken. Their empire was gone. Their power was finished. Nearby, Commander Thelvar waited in chains. He would stand trial soon, not just for the massacre, but for 10,000 years of oppression against dozens of species. The evidence against him filled entire databases. Stories from races that had disappeared under Velkaran rule. Records of genocides. Proof of systematic cruelty. General, said an aide, approaching Bora. President Sang Woo's ship has arrived. He wants to make the announcement from here. Bora nodded. Good. Let him come. Let everyone see what we've built from the ashes. The former capital building of the Velkaran Empire had been converted into a court. Representatives from 200 alien species filled the chambers. Some had been victims of the Velkarans. Others had simply watched from afar, too afraid to act. Now they gathered to witness justice. President Sang Woo walked through the halls where Velkaran emperors had ruled for millennia. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He was older now. The war had aged him. White streaks ran through his hair, lines carved deep around his eyes, but his spine was straight and his voice was strong. Today, we end an empire, he said, standing before the assembled representatives. Not because we wanted their territory, not because we wanted their resources, but because they murdered our innocent. Because they thought kindness was weakness, because they needed to be stopped. He looked at Thelvar, standing in the defendant's cage. You said you were teaching us a lesson. You said you were showing us how the galaxy really works. You were right. You taught us everything we needed to know. You taught us that the universe is cruel, that there are species out there who will destroy you for daring to believe in peace. Thelvar said nothing. His head hung low. The pride and arrogance were gone. But here's what you didn't teach us, Sang Woo continued. You didn't teach us to become like you. We didn't learn to oppress the weak. We didn't learn to kill the innocent. We learned to protect them. We learned to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. He turned to address the assembled species. The Velcaran Empire controlled 47 systems. They ruled over 19 different intelligent species. Some of you are here today because you were their victims. Some of you watched and did nothing because you were afraid. I don't judge you for that. Fear is reasonable when facing power. Ambassador Nari, daughter of the woman who died on the ceremonial platform, stepped forward. She had taken her mother's name and position. She had dedicated her life to finishing what her mother started. Today, we're not creating a new empire, she said. We're not taking Velcaran territory for Earth. Instead, we're giving it back. Back to the people who lived there before the Velcarans came. Back to the species they oppressed. We're establishing the Terran Accord, a defensive alliance, not for conquest, for protection. She pulled up a document on the screens. Any species can join. The terms are simple. You govern yourselves. You keep your territory. You maintain your culture. But if anyone attacks you, attacks your innocent, tries to destroy you for believing in peace, then all of us come to your defense. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Several species representatives looked skeptical. Why would you do this? Asked a delegate from the Corvin species, one of the groups that had suffered under Velcaran rule. What do you gain? Nothing, Sang-Woo said honestly. We gain nothing except the knowledge that we made the galaxy a little bit safer, a little bit kinder. We can't bring back our dead. We can't undo what the Velcarans did. But we can make sure it doesn't happen again. The trial began the next day. Thelvar stood accused of crimes against sentient life. The prosecution presented evidence that took 6 days to review. Recordings, documents, testimony from survivors of dozens of species. Thelvar listened to it all without speaking. When finally asked if he had anything to say, he stood slowly. I followed the old ways, he said, the ways that had kept my people strong for 10,000 years. We eliminated threats before they could grow. We maintained order through strength. This was always how the galaxy worked. Said the judge, a Corvin who had lost her entire family to Velcaran extermination squads. Past tense. The galaxy doesn't work that way anymore. Humanity changed the rules. They proved that kindness isn't weakness. That peace isn't foolishness. That the strong don't have to crush the weak. She looked at Thelvar with eyes that held both justice and mercy. You killed 288 humans because you thought they were too soft to survive. Instead, they destroyed your entire empire without becoming monsters like you. They won without losing their compassion. They proved you wrong about everything. The verdict was never in doubt. Guilty on all counts. But the sentence surprised everyone. You will live, the judge said. You will spend the rest of your life helping to rebuild what you destroyed. You will serve the species you oppressed. You will labor with your own hands to repair the damage you caused. And every day, you will remember that you brought this on yourself. That you could have had peace but chose violence. That you destroyed yourself through your own cruelty. It was, in many ways, a harsher sentence than death. Across the former Velcaran territory, humans worked to fulfill their promises. Engineer Kyung-soo led teams that built memorial stations in every system. Each one carried the names of the 288 who died. Each one reminded everyone why this war was fought. We can't forget them, Kyung-soo said, standing before the completed memorial in Velcar Prime orbit. We can't forget what happened, not because we want revenge, because we want to remember the cost of naivety, the price of assuming others think like we do. Sujin stood beside him. She had kept recording everything throughout the war. Her archive became required viewing for every human joining the defense forces, not to encourage hatred, to encourage caution, to remind everyone that peace is precious precisely because it's fragile. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked quietly. Kyung-soo considered the question. We did the necessary thing. The Velcarans showed us that the galaxy has predators. Species that view kindness as prey. We couldn't just hide and hope they'd leave us alone. We had to become something they feared. But we didn't become them, Sujin said. That's the important part. We fought without losing ourselves. We won without becoming monsters. Dr. Hyunwoo continued developing new technologies, but not weapons anymore. Now he focused on defense systems, communication networks, ways to help species across the galaxy stay safe. His ghost drive technology was shared freely with any species that wanted it. Protection, not conquest. Admiral Taemin, finally allowed to retire, visited the memorial station every year on the anniversary. He stood before Captain Daewon's name and remembered his friend, the man who had trusted in peace, the man who had died because others didn't share that trust. "I wish you could have been right," Taemin said to the name carved in stone. "I wish the galaxy was the kind place you believed in. But it's not. So I made sure no one else would die like you did. I hope that counts for something." Pilot Yejin trained the next generation of Ghost Runners. Young pilots from Earth and a dozen other species, all learning human tactics. Not to attack the innocent, but to defend them, to strike fast and hard against anyone who thought they could prey on the peaceful. "Remember," she told her students, "we're not the aggressors. We're the response. We're what happens when someone makes the mistake of attacking those who can't fight back. We're the price of cruelty." Ambassador Nari traveled constantly, building the Terran Accord. Species joined slowly at first, then faster as they saw it worked. As they realized humans meant what they said. Protection without control. Alliance without domination. "My mother believed in a peaceful galaxy," she told new members. "She died for that belief. Now I'm making it real. Not through naivety, but through strength. We'll be kind to those who deserve kindness. We'll be merciless to those who prey on the weak. The choice is theirs." Intelligence Officer Daewon continued his work, but differently now. Instead of infiltrating enemy systems, he built networks of trust. Information sharing between species. Early warning systems, ways to prevent conflicts before they started. "My brother died believing in first contact," he said in an interview. "I'll honor him by making sure future first contacts go better, by making sure no one else has to learn the lessons we learned. Not through blood, through wisdom." 50 years after the Horizon's promise was destroyed, Haewon stood before a classroom of young humans and aliens. She was ancient now, kept alive by medical technology, determined to teach one more generation. "You're learning about what we call the day mercy ended," she said. "The day humanity realized the galaxy wasn't what we hoped. The day we learned that peace requires strength to maintain it. That kindness is only possible when you can defend it." A young human student raised his hand. "Do you regret going to meet the Velkarans?" Haewon considered the question. "No. We had to try. We had to believe peace was possible. That's what makes us human. We hope. We dream. We believe things can be better. But we also learned that hope isn't enough. You need power to protect your dreams. You need strength to defend your peace." She pulled up images of the Horizon's promise. A beautiful ship, built for exploration and discovery. Then images of the new human vessels. Sleeker, faster, armed but still graceful. Each one named for someone who died. "We tried their way once," she said. "We came in peace. We offered friendship. We believed in the goodness of the universe. And we paid the price. 288 lives. 288 lessons. 288 reasons why we'll never make that mistake again." She looked at her students, humans and aliens, learning together, the future of the galaxy. "So now we do both. We come with open hands and loaded guns. We hope for peace but prepare for war. We offer friendship while making it clear what happens to those who betray that friendship. We learn to be kind and strong at the same time. That's humanity's gift to the galaxy. The knowledge that you don't have to choose between compassion and power. You need both." The class ended. Students filed out, discussing what they'd learned. Haewon remained behind, looking at the image of the Horizon's promise one more time. "We made it," she whispered to the ghosts of her friends. "We made the galaxy safer, not perfect, never perfect, but better. Your deaths meant something. The galaxy remembers what the Velkarans did, and the galaxy knows what happens to those who attack the peaceful." Outside, across 100 worlds, species lived and worked together. The Terran Accord had changed everything. There were still conflicts, still dangers, still species that tested the boundaries. But they learned quickly. They learned that attacking human civilians or the innocent of any species brought swift and terrible response. Humanity had become what the galaxy forced them to be. Protectors, defenders. The species that tried peace first but would burn entire empires to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. They never forgot the 288. They never stopped teaching about them. Every ship captain, every soldier, every diplomat learned their names. Learned their stories. Learned why humanity sent that message all those years ago. No more mercy for those who prey on the innocent. No more patience for those who mistake kindness for weakness. No more allowing the cruel to rule through fear. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had taught it well. And the stars were safer because of what happened when one species pushed the humans too far. The horizon's promise had sailed toward hope and found tragedy. But from that tragedy came something new. A galaxy where peace was possible because someone was strong enough to defend it. Where kindness could exist because someone was willing to fight for it. That was humanity's legacy. That was the message they sent with every ship, every alliance, every act of protection. They had tried mercy once. The galaxy refused it. So they sent a new message, written in the ruins of the Velcaran Empire and carved into memorials across the stars. We came in peace. You chose violence. Now you know the price.